Hey, it's Matt, your average gamer, and for this video, we're going to be jumping into 8 more fun builds. These are mostly build requests from you guys. I can't wait to jump into these. And by the way, if your build or your build request didn't make the cut in this video, odds are it will be in the next video or the video after that. I've been getting to a lot of them, and they've been a lot of fun. This is a build for the Nightrider's Glaive in Cold Affinity with Spinning Strikes. It works in two ways: building up on successive hits, using the Ash of War for a lot of damage and frost buildup, and then using charge hits as well to get in some posture damage, critical breaks, and of course good critical damage as well. This is a solid build for strength builds with very low intelligence investment. In a second here, we're going to go over equipment, stats, everything you need to know for a powerful Cold Nightrider's Glaive build. And we have the Cold Nightrider's Glaive plus 25, preferably with Spinning Strikes. Any seal for buffs. We have Rakshasa set on an Exile Hood, Wingsword Insignia or Rotten Wingsword Insignia if you have it. It's better. Millicent's Prosthesis, Two-Handed Sword Talisman for those charge hits, Shard of Alexander, Thorny Tier, Faith Tier. Let's jump into stats. And for stats, we have 60 Vigor, 22 Mind, 29 Endurance. We have 54 Strength. That's going to be over 80 when you two-hand this. We have 20 Dexterity, 25 Intelligence, 15 Faith, 25 Faith with a Faith tier, Golden Vow, and Flame Grant Me Strength too. And next up, we have a cold build for the Pada or Pada, however you say it, with Royal Knight's Resolve. Someone wanted a build for this weapon that's not bleed related. We ended up going for Frost though, because these don't really excel at anything specific, except in Cold Affinity they're actually quite good. That's probably one of the better affinities to use with this weapon, and this builds up on successive hits and can build up Frost really fast. These can be a lot of fun to use. Keep in mind, when you're using Royal Knight's Resolve with any fist weapon, you actually get it on both the first two hits. So there's a huge advantage there to using Royal Knight's Resolve, getting decent damage with that as well. I wanted to mention real quick, I'm going to say it throughout the video, but if you have any build requests or builds you want to see or weapons you want to see covered, be sure to comment below. I'm also curious as to your thoughts on the video. Let's jump into stats, equipment, everything you need to know for this build. And we have the Cold Pada plus 25, preferably with Royal Knight's Resolve. Any seal for buffs. Part of the Solitude set, Gaius's Greaves on, and the Rakshasa set, Millicent's Prosthesis, Wingsword Insignia or Rotten Wingsword Insignia if you have it, Magic Scorpion Charm, Ritual Swords Talisman, Magic Tier, and the Thorny Tier. Let's jump into stats. And we have 60 Vigor, 20 Mind, 30 Endurance, 15 Strength, 55 Dexterity, 20 Intelligence, 25 Faith. That's our base Faith amount. We didn't use the Faith tier for this build. Our buffs are Golden Vow, Flame Grant Me Strength, and we hit 77 poise. And next one up here, we have one of my favorite builds on here. Somebody wanted me to do another build for the Guardian Swordspear, and I've used it a lot with Ice Spear, but it's incredible with Impaling Thrust too. This weapon has insane base damage in Keen Affinity, gets an A in Keen Scaling, and then it can do a lot of poise damage too. It truly is an incredible weapon. And of course, we're going to continue to hit Moog here. Would have gotten a posture break in there, except when he goes into his phase transition, he tends to, his posture meter actually stays there, but he tends to not break or anything, and it kind of forces him into that phase 2 transition. Of course, if you have a bleed build, you could take him down easily before he gets to that point. But in this case, we're just going to beat him up with Impaling Thrust, get into critical break there. Couple more hits, actually just one more hit, and Moog went down. Yeah, really great build with the Impaling Thrust Guardian Swordspear. This is a weapon I highly recommend trying out, especially if you like dexterity builds, given its amazing base damage, good scaling. It's really just a very, very good weapon. It's one of my favorite weapons in the entire game, to be honest, in the Guardian Swordspear. Let's jump into equipment and stats. And we have the Guardian's Keen Swordspear, plus 25 preferably with Impaling Thrust. Any seal for buffs, Rakshasa set on. And then we have the Blade of Mercy Talisman. We have the Dagger Talisman. We have the Shard of Alexander. We have the Ritual Swords Talisman. And then we have the Green Burst Crystal tier, Faith tier for this build. And we're using Moog Shackle there to stun the boss. Let's jump into stats. And for stats, we have 60 Vigor, 21 Mind, 20 Endurance, 17 Strength, 70 Dexterity. Keep in mind, this is very much a dex build. 25 Faith. We did use the Faith tier for this build. We have 58 Poise, and we're using Golden Vow and Flame Grant Me Strength for our buffs. And the next build we have on here is a build for the Claymore. There was a couple people that asked for a build for the Claymore, and I wanted to do something different here, so I went for a Lightning Claymore build. It's actually really good in Lightning Affinity with Lightning Slash. Gets a lot of AR, around 850 in total. For heavy weapons, yeah, sure, it's great, but weapons like the Guts Greatsword and, of course, the Giant Crusher are going to outclass the Claymore for sure, although they're a lot more heavy. But anyways, in terms of weight, This weapon itself, pretty good in lightning affinity, it turns out. Not bad, actually, as a kind of dexterity-leaning weapon when you go for lightning. Decent AR, decent damage, and we've got a good Ash of War in lightning slash. This mixes two things, boosting lightning damage and going for charge attacks, because of course, with our charge attacks, we're doing pierce damage, as you can tell by the animation, and that's a great damage type in Elden Ring. So we're going to take advantage of the charged attacks as well as boosting lightning for this build, turning this into a powerful build for the Claymore. And I highly recommend this one. Let's jump into equipment. We have the Lightning Claymore plus 25 preferably. We have the Golden Vow Ash of War, Lightning Slash Ash of War on our Claymore, any seal for buffs, Rakshasa set, Divine Beast Helm, Lightning Scorpion Charm, Axe Talisman, Two-Handed Sword Talisman, Shard of Alexander, Lightning Tier, Spike Crack Tier, no Faith Tier here. Let's jump into stats. And for stats, we have 60 Vigor, 21 Mind, 28 Endurance, 21 Strength, 74 Dexterity. We have 15 Faith only for this build, so we can use Flame Grip Me Strength. We are using the Golden Vow Ash of War for this build, so we can spread our stats around a little bit more. We hit 62 poise. Alright, finally a highly requested build. This is a co-op build. This is going to be a co-op build whether you're the host or whether you're joining somebody. It's going to be built around healing and staying alive. For our buffs, we're going to use Golden Vow, Blessings of the Erdtree for extra HP, and Black Flames Protection. Or if you have Boiled Crab, that should be better because I think it doesn't cause you to lose anything. I think with Black Flames Protection, you get a little less healing from your flask, something like that. But we're going to go into the build now. Now, I wouldn't recommend spamming the Minor Erdtree because it is really FP costly, but it's really helpful in a co-op situation where people could go around it and heal. I just wanted to show off the build a little bit. I would only recommend really using it maybe once or twice. As far as the rest of the build goes, we're using the Blasphemous Blade to heal, of course. Make sure you time it well because that uses a lot of FP as well. Keep in mind, if you're joining somebody, you'll have half your flask. Then we have Heal from Afar, which is an excellent incantation for the amount of FP it costs and can heal whoever you're helping from a good distance like we did there. And that can be hugely helpful, and you can end up saving somebody in co-op. This is a better build for the host for sure. If you're joining somebody, though, you could make it work. You just have to be a little bit more careful with your FP. Keep in mind, you won't need that many healing flasks between Blessings of the Erdtree and then the Minor Erdtree, and then, of course, the fact that we've got a ton of defense in the Blasphemous Blade. A lot of your flasks should be switched over to FP for this build. There you can see we have Endure on a Dagger. That's to take a lot of reduced damage and to take some aggression if need be, although he ends up not targeting me there. But yeah, you can get hit a lot if you use Endure on a Dagger for a low FP cost. This is a really fun build too, because you're going to have a lot of power with it. And of course you can go in and get regular hits in as well, and then use the Blasphemous Blade, time it better to heal back at times where you need HP. But keep in mind, you're running Blessings of the Erdtree, you have the Minor Erdtree, which you're probably going to use once or twice, and then you have Heal from Afar to help anybody who needs help. If you're in co-op, there's going to be a lot of people probably that you're going to run into that need healing, so that's going to be helpful too. Overall, this is definitely one I'd recommend to try out in co-op. Keep in mind maybe with some small adjustments in terms of FP and health flask, because you are limited to about half your flask. But you can absolutely make it work. Let's jump into equipment and stats for this build. We have the Blasphemous Blade plus 10. We have Endure on a Dagger. We have the Erdtree Seal. We have the Solitude chest piece on. Gaius' Greaves, part of the Rakshasa set on for a little extra damage. We have the Shard of Alexander, Talisman of the Dread, Ritual Swords Talisman, Arsenal Charms plus 1, or Great Jar's Arsenal's better if you have it, Flame Tier, and Crimson Spill Crystal Tier for some extra HP. Let's jump into stats. And we have 60 Vigor, 22 Mind, 29 Endurance, 15 Strength, 15 Dexterity. Keep in mind you have to two-hand the Blasphemous Blade, 70 Faith, Golden Vow, Black Flames Protection, Blessings of the Erdtree, Minor Erdtree, and Heal from Afar. And the next one is a build for the Bloody Helice, and this is one that wasn't really requested, but it's one of the most commented weapons in pretty much all of my videos. There's always somebody commenting about this weapon that either wants a build for it or just wants to talk about it. Lately, it seems to be talked about a lot. I know a lot of people use it for PvP. It's a thrusting weapon. It has a very good animation too, where you can dodge attacks. Takes a minute to get used to. Overall, it does good bleed. Does a decent amount of physical damage too, and it's a weapon you could actually make work for PvE pretty easily because of the fact that you have the advantage of that animation once you get used to it. Again, it takes a second to get used to. Does decent poise damage too, as you can see there. Couldn't get the critical break in here because the dragon's head ended up on the stump there. But yeah, overall, the Bloody Helice, not at all a bad weapon. Definitely something to try out in PvE, and I know it's a very well-liked weapon for PvP. Let's jump into equipment. And we have the Bloody Helice plus 10, preferably the Dragon Communion Seal, Rakshasa set, and the White Mask on, of course. We have the two-handed sword talisman for our charged hits. We have Melissen's Prosthesis, Shard of Alexander. We have Lord of Blood's Exaltation. And then we have the Thorny Tear and Fate Tear. This builds around using both the light and charge attacks, as well as the Ash of War too. Let's talk about stats. And we have 60 Vigor, 16 Mind, 28 Endurance, 16 Strength, 40 Dexterity. We have 50 Arcane. This weapon scales really well with Arcane. We have 15 Faith. That's 25 Faith with the Faith tier. And then we have Golden Vow and Flame Grant Me Strength for our buffs. And next up, we have a Keen Milady build that uses Chilling Mist to add in a little bit of Frost as well, and then takes advantage of the physical damage from Milady, and of course being able to get in as many successive hits as possible as well. This weapon is really good. This build specifically is definitely built around, instead of spamming an Ash of War, constantly getting in as many hits as you can, playing aggressively, and of course building up Frost too. Of course, all of these, this was a build request as well, other than pretty much the Bloody Helice, which I just saw a lot of people talking about, were build requests. I mentioned this earlier in the video, but if you have any requests, be sure to comment them below. I'm making a list for them. Some of the ones, certain ones like the Magma Blades, they're going to take me a minute to farm for. But yeah, some of the stuff's going to take me a second. Few of them that are really powerful might end up waiting, and they'll end up on one of my more OP list or broken list, etc. But yeah, if you have build requests, comment them below. And if you have any thoughts on the video or builds or anything you're going to try, be sure to comment that too. And also, if you're new to Elden Ring, I'll leave my best guide in the description as well. Let's jump into equipment. And we have Keen Milady plus 25 with Chilling Mist. We have any seal for buffs. We have the Rakshasa set on, Divine Beast Helm for some extra strength and dexterity, Melissen's Prosthesis, Wing Sword Insignia or Rotten Wing Sword Insignia if you have it, Two-Handed Sword Talisman, Ritual Sword Talisman, Thorny Tier, Faith Tier. Let's talk about stats. And for stats on this build, we have 60 Vigor, 21 Mind, 28 Endurance, 21 Strength, 79 Dexterity. We have 25 Faith with the Faith tier. Of course, we hit 62 poise for this build. The first threshold, by the way, that you want to hit is 51, so anything over 51 is good. Golden Vow, Flame Grant Strength. And next up here, we have the final one on here, and that is a Cragblade Warhawk's Talon build. This is another one that was requested. This ended up being better than I thought. We did a Blood and Frost build with Cragblade for the Warhawk's Talons, and it turns out it does a good amount of physical damage, a little bit of poise damage too, and overall, not a bad build. If you like straight swords, and they can be a little bit of an underwhelming class, I recommend trying out this build. It allows you to use heavy attacks for a little bit of poise damage, jump attacks for some poise damage, and then get in a bunch of hits that build up Frost and Bleed, and does a decent amount of damage. By no means is this a bad build. It ended up being surprisingly good. I missed a jump there, by the way. I ended up using 2 bosses for this build. I fought a lot of different things with this one. I actually ended up liking it a lot. The Warhawk's Talons are my favorite straight swords. They're basically dexterity weapons, and adding in Cragblade, getting in some poise damage, some extra physical damage, just makes the build a lot better. Let's jump into equipment and stats. And we have 2 Warhawk's Talons with Cragblade, one with Blood Affinity, one with Cold Affinity, any seal for buffs. We have part of the Rakshasa set on, the Grave Bird Armor and White Mask. We have the Wing Sword Insignia or Rotten Wing Sword Insignia if you have it, Melissen's Prosthesis, Claw Talisman, Lord of Blood's Exaltation, Thorny Tier, Faith Tier. Let's jump into stats. And for stats on probably my favorite build on here, we have 60 Vigor, 17 Mind, 28 Endurance, 15 Strength, 45 Dexterity, 45 Arcane for that Arcane Soft Cap, 25 Faith with the Faith tier, Golden Vow and Flame Grant Me Strength. This and the Swordspear one are pretty much tied for me. I really like both of those builds. And thanks for watching this one. Thanks for tuning in to my top 8 new fun builds to try in 2025. This is the first day of 2025, so I want to say Happy New Year to everybody. If you have any build requests, of course, comment them below. Be sure to sub if you're not subbed yet and you love Elden Ring content. I'll leave my latest video, which did really well. That was my top builds of 2024, as well as my best beginner's guide in the description below. And as always, I will catch you guys in the next build video.